Or seems like he's already got a really nice feel for how to protect the ball in that spin move. How hard is that for a guy his size, with the ball, potentially coming up high, the way that he's able to transfer it as he makes that move?
You can ask him about the skill of it. Obviously, he was a skilled player coming in the door. I think if you look back at summer league, those plays didn't always end well, and I think what he's learned is the times to attack from that part of the floor and the times not to, and a lot of it has to do with the movement of the rest of the players. If we're stationary or on the perimeter, and we're not moving or cutting or moving off of those wing spots, then those defenders can crowd the elbows, and that's where you can run into trouble driving from there. We've seen that with him in the past, and I think he's kind of learned those lessons and applied them well.
And then I want to ask you about Ooze. He's getting a really huge chunk of his points on fast breaks and points off turnovers. And I just recall one of the first things that you guys told him to do is just sprint to the corner, sprint in transition. Can you maybe speak to the fundamental skill of that, and that maybe paying some dividends now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of his stuff, he's a young player, obviously. The road is long with him, and so we start with every player at a very foundational level, but I think it's essential with guys that are coming into the league as young as he was. And so a lot of it's just effort, in all different facets of the game. He had a great string of offensive rebounds last game where he crashed 2 straight possessions. He ended up getting one of the rebounds. Jay Will, I think, got the first one. That's an effort thing. The running is obviously effort. All the defensive stuff is, intelligence, but also effort. And so he's ramped that up. He's definitely a completely different player right now than he was a year ago, but still a long way to go. He's going to go to the blue here soon. He'll play tonight, but he'll go to the blue so that we can just kind of juice him up with more reps, and just create more volume for these reps and these skills, so that we continue to build him up. But we have a very intentional plan with him. We're bringing him along in a very intentional way, and we'll use, like I said, the blue reps to do that as well.
Coach, just want to get your thoughts on the in-season tournament and your thoughts. And I know the build-up was kind of slow, but it seemed like players are getting excited about it now.
Yeah, the league's done a good job of creating a vibe around it. I think the different court, different uniforms is a smart move. I think that's brought a different element to it for the fans, especially, and for the teams. I mean, for us, we want to be a team that when the scoreboard's on, we're competing, regardless of the circumstances, and that's a habit that we want to have, and that I think we've had for a period of time now. But there's a lot of different distractions that can get in the way of that, and I say that respectfully to the in-season tournament, but it's kind of a new distraction that we have to cut through and continue to focus on the things that we focus on every night. And if you want to be a good team, the noise only gets louder, the distractions only get more plentiful, and we need to be a team that can cut through them, and the in-season tournament gives us an opportunity to do that.
Mark, I want to go back to Chet and some of the middle of the floor stuff. It feels like the reads he's making as a passer there have kind of developed with each game. I'm just curious what you've seen from him in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a great job not only with the passing reads on his attacks, but when to attack. There's plays, where he catches it up there. He's in that spot a lot on the floor. There's plays where he catches it up there and has a closeout and he has space. He attacks those, and some of his passes are kind of spray outs to the perimeter. There's other plays where he gets it up there and there's really not space up there, for whatever reason on the possession. And on those ones, he's just turned it to the other side and getting us to the next action. Having a balance between those two is critical for anybody in our offense. It's certainly him because of how much he's up there, and he's struck a nice balance there, and I think that's why you're seeing, we talk a lot about his efficiency with the shooting, but he was high turnover in summer league and even in practice early on, and he's done a nice job of kind of keeping that down.
Yeah, and we've talked about J-Dub and the story he told about his draft workout and you putting him through what you call his stress test. Do you have any memory of maybe Chet's first stress test with you?
I mean, we were pretty intimate with him in the draft process. I mean, we had multiple interviews with him. Once we ended up that high in the draft, he was a clear target for us going in, and certainly once we ended up with that pick, Sam was on that one from the jump. And, great guy to get, involved with. The thing that popped to me about him was when you talk to him, he had a good workout, but when you talk to him, you knew that guy watched a lot of basketball. There was, in our interview, Sam was talking about one of his coaches or something. I don't even remember what the context was, but I remember Sam referenced Jan Mahinmi. And he knew, he was like, Jan Mahinmi was in Indiana, right? And it was like, whoa, like, you don't fake that. There's a lot of faking in the draft process because everybody's interviewing, You can't fake, being 21 and knowing who Jan Mahinmi is. And the more you talk to him, and the more you talk to him about the league, and the more you talk to him about, you just knew this guy was a junkie. And, that's proven to be true with just his work ethic and stuff like that. But that was a memory from his stuff that I thought was really potent.
Mark, Lou has talked about his finishing last year and go back and watching what he said, some of the stuff he threw up there driving in last year.
Some of the stuff he threw up there.
But I just wonder.
That wasn't the only thing that was being thrown out there.
I just wonder what you. I wonder what you've noticed about that approach and what it says maybe about him, that he would go back and look at what he was doing last year and try to adjust.
Well, let's be clear. Like, every player on the roster is a developmental player for us. We want to have an environment of development, regardless of experience level, regardless of if it's Lou or Shea that have been here for 5 years now, or whether it's Vasa or Bertans that are veteran players with a lot of experience but have never been here, and everybody else. We want to be about development, and we, like, the stuff that Lou is applying right now, he's always had. He's always had humility. He's always had character. He's always been self-reflective. What we're asking these guys to do is hard, and the NBA is hard, and it takes time on some things. Some players, progress very quickly in some areas, and it takes them a long time in others. He's a great example of it. From day one, he could guard Donovan Mitchell. He guarded Donovan Mitchell the first week that he was a player in the NBA. But it's taken him a long time to see the pictures offensively, to make the reads offensively. There's a lot of different reasons for that. And I think that's just an important lesson to apply to every player. It's like there's things that click very quickly for them, and then there's other things that takes a lot of time. We hang in there with them, especially when they have the stock that he has. And I think that's the point, is like what he's doing right now with the self-reflection, that's not anything new. He hasn't learned how to self-reflect over the summer. He's always been humble and self-reflected. He's just learning how to apply that self-reflection to an area of his game that obviously he needed to improve. He recognized that. We recognize that. He's done a great job.
And then I want to ask you, Mike Brown was saying, kind of for fun today, they showed their players some things you could buy with $500,000, the prize money for the tournament, including what kind of house you could buy in Oklahoma City for $500,000. I wonder if you had any motivational tactics for the tournament.
He showed the type of house you could buy in Oklahoma City.
One of his.
Yeah, it was one of the slides.
Was the type of house you can get in Oklahoma City.
It was like, you can buy an island here, you could buy this many bottles of red wine or white wine, and if you lived in OKC, you could buy this house. It was just like one of the assistant video editors put it together.
Did he show what kind of house you could buy in California?
No, you're actually sitting in it right now.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
500 mil.
That's a good one. I like that. He's the best.
Coach, obviously the offense been humming for you guys over the last 3 games or so, fastest pace in the league, highest scoring. I'm just curious, what's been most encouraging in terms of the sustainable aspects of the way you guys have been playing offensively recently?
Yeah, I mean, the process for us has been really good the last 3 games. I thought New Orleans left a lot to be desired from a style standpoint and an identity standpoint, where we were just not in a collective rhythm in that game for many possessions. And coming out of there, we played Golden State and got that really on track in that game, and then kept it on track against Atlanta and Cleveland. And so we've strung together 3 straight games where we've created really good team rhythm on offense. I think our shooting numbers have reflected that. I think a challenge for us that is inevitably going to be coming at some point is when we play in that type of rhythm, generate great shots, and the shots don't fall. Do we have the conviction in it to trust it and to continue to just double down on it? Which is just we may not do that well. That's the first time we confront it, but those are the types of experiences that you go through in the season that you can grow from, and the team's done a great job so far. We haven't been perfect, but we've grown from our lessons, and we just have to continue to do that both ends.
And then I wanted to ask you about Jalen. I feel like J-Dub, I feel like I asked you about this last year, but he's got a hand on the ball defensively, just deflecting the ball, maybe not even getting steals or anything, just rebounds, tipping the ball. How much of that do you feel like is, obviously he's got a long wingspan, 7'2", how much of that do you feel like is IQ as well for him?
Yeah, I mean, if your hands are by your side, then your wingspan is 0.
Right.
You know, and that's where, for all of our players, we have good team size, especially on the perimeter. And you know, you've got to be able to apply that size. You got to learn how to get your size into the game. If you're fast, you got to learn how to get your speed into the game. If you're strong, you got to learn how to get your physicality into the game. The last 2 games, we've done a good job collectively of being more active. We've been in the spots pretty well for much of the year defensively, you know, in terms of positioning. But the activity in that positioning, I was just talking to Matt about this, has ramped up the last 2 games, and it's created more turnovers. It's made us harder to play against, and we've talked a lot about the rebounding, which we're leaning right into, but when you turn a team over, then you're not dealing with a missed shot or a made shot. And so there's value in upticking that. We're not going to do it out of like tactical aggression, but if we can be active in what we're doing, then we can kind of have our cake and eat it too, where we can play an efficient scheme but also be disruptive.
Anybody else for Coach?
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.